So the key thing to take away from the end of a phone interview is if they want to move you to the next step, they will talk about it right then and there. They'll ask you, are you available tomorrow to speak with my hiring manager? Like very specifically, they'll ask for your schedule. If they don't ask for your schedule for the next step, chances are they're not going to contact you for the time being.
안녕하세요. 소피의 사랑방을 찾아주신 여러분, 오늘도 아주 귀한 손님을 모시고 왔는데요. 성함은 데이비드 영균리이시고요. 지금 미국 뉴욕에서 휘웅 날라오셨는데 제가 오자마자 한국 도착하자마자 납치를 해서 여기에 이 소피의 사랑방에 모시고 왔습니다. 왜냐하면 이분께서는 이제 HR 필드에서 거의 5년 이상의 경력을 가지고 계시는, 또 여러분께서 준비하시는 그 모든 것들에 채용자 관점에 여러 퍼스펙티브를 또 나눠주실 수 있는 좋은 스킬셋들과 경력을 가지고 계셔서 여러분들께 꼭 공유하고 싶어서 모시고 왔습니다. 진짜 해외 취업을 요즘에 생각하시는 분들이 많기는 하지만 여전히 조금 생소한 분야이긴 하거든요. 한국 사람들한테는. 미국에서는 보통 어떻게 준비하는지, 한국에서는 사실 뭐 잡코리아, 사람이, 뭐 리멤버 되게 여러 사이트들을 이용을 좀 많이 하는데 어떤 거를 좀 주로 이제 미국 분들이 이용을 하시고 좀 어떤 식으로 하는지 그런 것 좀 말씀 주실 수 있을까요?
So just like in Korea, like using Job Korea USA and multiple different websites is the way to go in America. Well, let's start off with the two different ways that a candidate could get a job. So aside from updating your resume and making sure all the content in your resume fits the job posting or whatever it may be, you can either reach out to recruiters directly by saying, hey, I'm interested in this opening that you have. Would you mind sharing some time with me later this week to over the phone to have a quick conversation? Here's my resume. You could take a direct approach, or like you mentioned with Job Korea USA, you could also just go to the company page directly. They have careers pages. Now even other platforms, there's some called like monster.com. There's also even on LinkedIn, aside from recruiters using it to find people, there's separate sections where you can find jobs there. Companies will use that LinkedIn page to post their own jobs. So predominantly nowadays, from my perspective, recruiter LinkedIn as a whole has been the biggest platform for job seekers.
Still.
Yeah, so they'll pull jobs from LinkedIn and then transfer it over to Google, for example. So if you're basically looking at the same thing, if you look it up on Google. So aside from that, from those two things, that there's not much else aside from getting referrals as well. I believe getting referrals to the company is probably the best bet in terms of at least having a phone conversation. There's so many candidates out there, that people looking for jobs, that recruiters aren't able to connect with everybody. So the companies have referral bonuses in place for the existing employees. Later down the line, when the candidate gets the job after their probationary period, they'll be able to get a nice little bonus. In New York standards, it's okay. To give you an example, it ranges from maybe $2,000 USD if it's an entry-level position, and then all the way up to even senior director positions, which aren't as common. So it could go up to $8,000, $10,000 in one bonus.
좋은데? 좋은데요? 그렇게까지 하기 때문에 사실 리퍼럴이 정말 많죠, 미국에서는. 그래서 여러분도 리퍼럴을 좀 준비하시기 위해서 좀 네트워킹을 평소에 해놓는 것들 잊지 않으셨으면 좋겠고, 뭐 그러려면 사실 CV랑 레sume 뭐 이런 것들 좀 미리미리 준비가 되어 있어야 되긴 하겠다, 그죠?
Of course, yeah. Aside from that, I mean, the CV and resume, they're pretty easy as long as you research on how things should be structured. But the bottom line is because HR departments typically use a lot of programs to help with the sheer volume of applicants. They'll use keyword filters. Let's say you put in your resume that you know a specific programming language such as JavaScript, and then a hiring manager within the company says, hey, I need a front-end engineer. Then the HR team will just type in JavaScript or HTML, and then all the resumes that include those keywords will just pop up. So if it's not there, you probably won't be getting an interview.
그래서 여기에서 꿀팁은 정말 그런 링크드인을 디테일하게 써놓는 거를 강조를 드리고 싶은데 요거는 나중에 또 질문해서 더 자세하게 또 말씀을 드릴게요. 우리가 또 준비한 질문들이 있으니까. 그러면 두 번째, 지원자의 입장 말고 사실 채용자의 입장을 좀 듣기는 어려운 부분들이 많은데요. 아까 전에 살짝 설명을 해주시긴 했지만 좀 어떤 프로세스를 걸쳐서 지원자들을 좀 채용을 하시는지 이걸 좀 여쭤볼 수
So,
있을까요?
well, let's start from the top when there is no job available.
Okay.
And then when there is demand, the hiring manager will put in a request to the HR department, and then the HR department will take a look and see, kind of gauge how long it'll take depending on the availability, and then it can go as quickly as 1 week to get a candidate, to as long as even 6 months, and those like 3 to 6 month periods are usually for like the higher end of the spectrum folks. I would say like senior managers and up, they could take at least like a month to 3, and so on and so forth. But going back to the process, you kind of give them a timeline, and then that's when the team, depending on how big they are, they'll start to either look into their current pool, reach out to them, or use LinkedIn Recruiter to kind of get new people into the pool. And usually they'll get about 10 to 20 or more if they can candidates to start the interview screening process, which consists of a phone screen, hiring manager interview, and some other miscellaneous parts. For example, for software engineers, they'll do technical screens. So they'll have them sit in front of, or rather face-to-face like video call, and then screen share and do a coding test or practice, and then that way they'll be able to see exactly how the candidate's brain works. I guess how they handle and tackle different problems and find ways to fix whatever code error, whatever it is. It's usually just based on what type of work they're expected to be doing. And then eventually after they pass those two, from what I know, you're pretty much in the bag when you get moved on to the HR interview. You pretty much are in the final stages of the interview process. The final step usually is HR. You'll then discuss salary. They'll kind of do like a very quick check on who you are, a little recap of some of the earlier interviews, perhaps, and then they'll kind of discuss with you how much you're expecting, how much time you need to hire, the logistics of how you can join the company, and then pretty much after that, I would say the waiting period could be as early as a day. They'll say, hey, I'm giving you a verbal offer right now. We'll send it to you in writing by the end of the day. Or there are other candidates that they want to look at before they send you the offer. They'll say, okay, we'll have to go back and discuss, and we'll get back to you. And that might take up to a week or two. And typically they don't like to wait too long, because from the candidate's perspective, they will and they should be looking at different companies at the same time as well. So it's like I guess matchmaking in which you have multiple candidates, but then also the candidates also have multiple companies that they should have options like to choose from, pretty much.
일반적인 거를 채용 프로세스를 말씀을 해주셨는데 제가 조금 더 디테일하게 좀 여쭤볼게요. 그럼 폰 스크리닝을 나중에 하신다고 했는데 그거를 위해서 조금 이제 지원자 입장에서 먼저 좀 잘 해두면 좋을 게 뭘까요?
Well, if you're so the first step, which would be the phone screen, it usually only takes about 15 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is the average, the standard time. But if you're more, let's say, a tenured employee, it really depends on how much content they have to go through. But again, 30 minutes, you have to be able to relay your qualifications in a very concise manner. So sometimes people actually go in front of a mirror and practice like their self-introduction, what they do.
Elevator pitch.
That would be the right term for it. Yeah. From there on, they'll pretty much just go over the resume with you, and then all you really have to do is just look through your own resume and make sure what parts to highlight when you're talking with them over the phone. And then from there on, they'll either have decided whether or not you're a good fit. Yeah.
그러면 좀 지원자 입장에서 궁금한 게 도대체 폰 스크리닝 어떻게 되는 건지 뭘 어떻게 지금 준비하면 되는지 뭐 어떤 질문들 주시는지 좀 더 디테일하게 말씀 주실 수 있을까요?
Yeah, so generally speaking, during a phone screen, a recruiter would essentially be looking for to confirm what you put on your resume. So they'll go over all your credentials, such as your graduation, your school, and your work experience one by one. So for example, they'll ask you to introduce yourself, of course, and then you have your standard elevator pitch, where you graduated from, maybe even like hobbies or whatnot. And then you move on to your general work experience. From then on, you want to highlight what it is you exactly accomplished in your respective various experiences. So to give you an example, let's say you were interviewing for a software engineer position and you had like 2 years of experience. And in company A, you helped the company increase revenue by 50%. Then you want to highlight exactly how you accomplished that goal. For example, by providing them the project that you worked on. And then, so the rest of the phone screen, again, it's basically to confirm. They should be expected to already know what you've done. It's just that they want to hear it from your perspective. Because if you know, if you're experienced to a certain extent and you know the job itself, you should be expected to explain it to a toddler, for example. Yeah, so you just put it into very simple terms since they already have the exact details on the resume itself.
그 폰 인터뷰도 있기는 하지만 사실은 한국에서는 또 AI 인터뷰나 이런 것들도 요즘에 많이 하거든요. 미국은 좀 어떻게 되는 것들이 있을까요?
So not every company has adopted this, but there are some companies that ask you to record a video of yourself. They'll give you prompts on the page, and then they give you a few minutes to prepare, and you kind of just record yourself. It saves more time for the company. There's a lot of people that apply for jobs among various companies. There's only in a team of like recruiters, it's probably like 3 to 5 people within the HR department. So they can't possibly reach 50,000 candidates or applicants by themselves in that short period of time. So through the use of video interviews, they'll be able to see who you are and like what kind of a person you are just by looking at the videos.
어떤 질문들이 나오나요?
The phone and the videos, the questions tend to be pretty similar. And so they'll ask you who you are, why do you want to join the company? That question is usually a hit or miss because for that question, they want to know if you know the company well enough, if you did your background research on it, exactly about their mission statement, their company core values, a couple more details on maybe current state of affairs with the company. What applicants are generally encouraged to do is in the midst of your background research on a company, you can also look up what interview process they use. Platforms like Glassdoor to review how good a company's culture is for the employees, but also they give you some pointers, some insider information sometimes on how you can go about the interview. Some people will actually go through the interview, and then whether or not they get the job, they'll be able to post anonymously. These are the questions that the interviewer asked for phone screen, video interview. So despite me telling you what it is to expect, anyone can just kind of look up online. To be honest with you, and that is what you should honestly do. I mean, you don't want to make yourself seem unprepared. I think that's the worst thing you could do when it comes to interviews.
맞아요. 그러면 서류를 준비할 때 사실 지원자 입장에서 조금 어떻게 하면 좋은지 아까 전에 필터 얘기를 잠깐 하셨는데 그 부분 조금 더 디테일하게 설명 드릴 수 있을까요?
Yeah, so HR departments use keyword filters in order to save time and maximize efficiency because of the sheer volume of applicants. So for example, they'll type in JavaScript or HTML for when it comes to looking for software engineers. Typically, a hiring manager will put in the request and give them the bare minimum criteria that they need. So they'll use that as their basis for their little scavenger hunt among the pool of applicants on their program. So HR teams use programs such as Greenhouse or Workday to gather resumes from applicants, and then all of those applications, wherever it may come from, it'll all get pulled into the same application, and then that's how they start using the keyword filters, and through that way they'll be able to get a pool of maybe 15 to 20 candidates. Sometimes before the hiring manager even asks for a new employee, companies will realize, okay, this position takes a little too much time to fill. So why don't we create what's called a ghost job opening? There are some companies do that, and it's not looked upon very favorably by people like employees looking for jobs, because they'll post a job showing that they're looking to hire someone immediately, but in reality it's actually not the case. What they're looking for there is to just get that pool in order to contact people later down the line. So again, it's an effort to save time and maximize efficiency again in the HR team's perspective.
그럼 일단 인재풀에 등록을 기업 입장에서는 해놓고 나중에 컨택을 하기 위함일 수도 있습니다.
Yes.
그럼 지원자는 어떻게 알 수 있죠? If it's ghost posting인지 아닌지?
You won't be able to find out. One way you actually can find out is if you just never get contacted. That's
잠시만요.
I know it sucks, but they usually have their little standard template, I guess, responses. They'll tell you, thanks so much for your time. I'm gonna get back with my team, and if there's a good fit, we'll be sure to reach out to you. So the key thing to take away from the end of a phone interview is if they want to move you to the next step, they will talk about it right then and there. They'll ask you, are you available tomorrow to speak with my hiring manager? Like very specifically, they'll ask for your schedule. If they don't ask for your schedule for the next step, chances are they're not going to contact you for the time being, right? Then that's how you can kind of figure out, one, whether you passed the phone screen, or two, they weren't actually looking for a position, like an employee. Some recruiters or some teams will actually go as far as to just tell you straight up, which is a lot better. To be honest, it saves everyone's time, and you don't have to be sitting there waiting for the next step.
그럴 수 있지만 그래도 약간 인재풀에 등록을 해놓으면은 나중에 시간을 또 세이브해서 또 빠르게 뽑힐 수도 있으니까 이거는 또 약간 생각해봐야 될 부분이에요.
Like I said, it's gonna take 30 minutes for a phone screen. You can just find some time during your lunchtime just think of it as an investment for later down the line. If it's a really big company that you really want to get into, even despite you not being able to get in now, then what's the harm? Right?
맞아요. 약간 투자? 약간의
시간
투자?
투자.
오케이, 시간 투자. 오케이. 미국에서 HR 담당을 하시면서 좀 느꼈던 한국이랑 가장 큰 차이가 저한테 약간 네트워킹 약간 이런 거라고 하셨기는 하잖아요. 요거 조금 더 자세하게 설명 드릴 수 있을까요?
In America, there's like I mentioned with the different recruiting platforms. I'll just go back to the LinkedIn because it's kind of like social media where you look at different people's profiles, and if you're an employee looking for a job, you can go to a company's page, and then through the company's page, you can look at the list of employees. There's going to be recruiters or HR directors or managers that you can reach out to, and then you send them a very simple message. They actually limit your character count, so you can just do like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, my name's David, or I'm currently employed, or I'm currently seeking a job, and I noticed that you have an opening. Would you be interested in a quick phone call? And then you just leave it at that, and then when they see it, they'll be able to just look at your profile and see, like a resume. Your profile on LinkedIn is essentially your resume. So they have parts where you can put in your skills. You can even take tests on the platform to highlight. Like LinkedIn can vouch for me. Like I know my stuff in regards to Excel or Microsoft Word, stuff like that. And so Networking can be done by cold outreach, messaging them. They typically won't answer the phone if you call their company line, so I wouldn't say call them. From a recruiter's perspective, the typical cadence, which would be how often you reach out or follow up with the same person, it can go up to 3 times. I would say it's like the professional standard. You reach out to them, and then 3 days later, maybe set a reminder or something. Hey, just following up once more, just in case you didn't get my first message. If it's still available and you're still interested, I'm also still interested. So let's connect. And then on the third message, when I reach out to candidates, I'll say for the final one, I'll be, hey, just following up one last time, just in case you missed my other 2 messages. So from an employee's perspective, you could say this is how I can provide for the company, right? Just add little extra details along the way. Going back to the whole referral part, through the use of referrals, instead of having to wait and follow up through cold outreach, you can kind of bypass all of that. Let's say it's a higher level person that does the referral for you. The senior director is telling me this guy is like a personal connection. I should at least, show that we care by at least getting on the phone with them. Right? So typically that's your way to at least talk to the person. They'll at least give you the benefit of the doubt, even if your resume might not perfectly align. And then if they see that, oh wow, so this person actually might be, like, there's a good chance that he would be the fit, then again, going back to the end of the phone call conversation, they'll say, hey, so can you make some time tomorrow for the hiring manager?